BarnBurner TV Network on the Zingo TV Channel 250. Guys, I have a little bit that I have to read here for you all for network purposes, so we're going to get through this and we're going to get this show started. Please remember you can always download both the BarnBurner and Zingo TV apps in their respective app store on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free, so make sure you download. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire Sticks. Roku and Roku Sticks also on smart TVs 2016 and forward. Hey, I didn't even know that. And so that's it for that. Started, so you have to read the rest at the end of the show. But we're here live for the second show. Jaylee,
second show. Woohoo! So thanks for everybody tuning in. We had a great first show. Super excited about it. So if this is your first time watching, a recap of last week, my co-host Brittany and I, we talked everything wrestling, the locker room, relationships, some dark times that we've fallen on here in the wrestling world and everything like that. So yeah, here we are for our second little show.
Still in some pretty odd times going on right now. We still have this crazy pandemic going, although I think a lot of that has been dismissed with all of the protests and riots, things of that nature that's going on right now. If you'd like to talk about that, we can talk about that, but we can also just make this the Good News Network for right this second. Give you guys a little bit more entertainment, because if you just open up your Facebook, I'm sure you're going to get plenty of information on both sides of this.
I tell you what, I'm so ready to delete my Facebook, to tell you the truth. It's been insane. It's so crazy. Yeah.
I'm not usually very vocal. I'm trying to open up Facebook Live. Sorry, I'm gonna.
Oh, you're good.
And I'm usually not very vocal on my Facebook. For the last couple of days, I've said a few things and stayed pretty PC, but had to speak my mind a little bit because I'm not usually a quiet female.
Right.
I'm Facebook off that.
Get it. So enough about all the bad news. I'm so tired of hearing it. It's been nuts. So let's talk about our guest today.
Oh boy.
We talked a little bit about them last week. I don't know if we need to really tell too much more about that because we're going to have them on the show very soon, but talked about them and our relationships and how we deal with that in the locker room. So today I want to get their point of view and, kind of what they deal with in the locker room, their take on things, maybe some relationship stuff, who knows? So should we bring them on?
I guess so. Let's do that deep dive when bring them on so everybody can see what we have to deal with. All right.
Cool.
So
here they come. Let's bring them on. Let's scooch over here.
Thank you.
Wild man with you.
Please sit.
Oh God.
Sit. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Please sit down. Thank you. Thank you.
That's okay. Mine's bringing animals.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Like, two animals.
This is
wonderful.
our show. You
a lot.
Oh God.
Dude. Good. That one. It's okay.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to get Walter on here.
He says no. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Please sit down. Thank you.
There's nobody even there.
Thank you so much.
We're in our bedroom.
Thank you. Congratulations on your guys' show here, the second episode, and finally, you guys got the two babes on the show. I'm really proud of you. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Stop. Yeah. Thank you.
Brittany, I'm ready to kick them off already.
I know
y'all are very welcome to having us on. This is a big event. And, I'm just glad we were able to do business.
Yeah. I'm glad we're able to work this out. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And thank you very much.
Okay, without further ado, this is Randall Floyd.
Dr. B.
So he tries to build the show.
Jaylee, tell us, how long have you guys been together?
6 months.
I'm going to punch him so hard in the face right now. So we've been together, it's 2.5 years. So in October, it'll be 3 years. What about you guys?
So do you want to answer? Do you want me to answer?
Do you know?
Do you know?
Of course I know. I know everything.
He likes to get that in, just so you guys know. No, we have been together it'll be 10 years in December. We have been married for 7 years.
And he's still alive, so you must be doing something right.
We're surviving we survived the quarantine, so I think we can do pretty much anything.
We did too. We were able to work and kind of have a little bit of normalcy though. So I think that's why we may be still good or maybe not.
I had about 2 weeks with him still working. And then after that, we were both laid off. So
Right.
it's been a lot. There's been a lot of, okay, you need to go into your office and pretend you're at work.
Right. See ya. So how did you guys meet? Did you meet in wrestling or?
We did. You want to tell the story?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really cute ring announcer, and I was like, I got to get me some of that. Actually, it was our mutual friends, Package Chris Sharp and his wife, Kelly, one half of the Blossom tag team. They had a little Halloween shindig because they knew mutually we liked each other. And so, of course, we were like playing some kind of like trivia game. And then me and Package set up to where like, well, if whoever wins, the other person has to make dinner for the other person or something stupid like that. And so, of course, we threw the game, of course, let the girls win. So that way me and Package had to make dinner. Package can't cook, so I had to cook the whole thing.
Package did dessert.
He bought it.
Hey, that counts, right?
That's right. And then we started dating around that time. And then, yeah, that's pretty much, happened ever since. And so, yeah, we've been together since that time.
It happened ever since.
It happened ever since.
Aww,
He doesn't
so
cook
cute.
very much anymore, though.
Sometimes. We do Uber Eats.
Uber Eats, there you go.
Uber Eats
Well,
before everything shuts down.
I know, right? Uber Eats was so crazy busy though in it. But so yeah, we met wrestling as well. We met in Matt Capitelli's class like 3.5 years ago. I wasn't really interested in him at first.
She's lying.
He said he liked me since day one, but I don't know. So how we like really kind of started talking, I got kicked in the head in Rip Rogers' class. And literally, he was so sweet though. So he got me ice in his shirt and checked on me. And then I was like, oh man, I kind of like this guy. And we used to be, in the entourage, he was our bodyguard, for Dave Lowe and I. So
I hired muscle.
Okay, that's what a bodyguard is. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we've kind of been together ever since. We traveled together. We have wrestled together. We've been tag teams. So, our animals are going crazy. I'm sorry. So yeah, so I want to get your guys' take on the locker room. We talked about the locker room and what it's like for us, last week on our show, and just, how it is, in everyday life of being a wrestler. So kind of want to get your all's take on your views on that.
And dating a female that's in the business.
Yes, exactly. And how that works.
Well, you definitely have to consider, there's always the political side of it. And by that, I mean, you have to consider, heaven forbid, if things, don't work out, what's going to happen. But you have to ultimately, come to an understanding of who that person is and how you can coexist. And I think taking a lot of extra time in the beginning to really get to know Brittany made me a lot more secure that, things weren't going to, go that way. And if things, if there was an issue that happened in the locker room, I was going to stick next to her rather than, taking a different side in any kind of beef or whatsoever. So you have to, stick by each other. And I think it's a lot of communication. Communication is really the key in understanding where both people are coming from in different situations. And not to get too serious on that, I think that's helped us tremendously, is just having an open line of communication on how we feel about people or situations. So that way we can navigate those kind of difficult situations better. Because in the locker room, there's always going to be some kind of drama, unfortunately, going down either between the boys or the office or whatever. And it's good to be on the same page on that, because people are going to try to get you to take a side or take take up for someone over someone else. And so it's easy to, sometimes have that divide of, what side do we agree on, and communication comes 100% in trying to navigate through those kind of situations.
Exactly.
So you got anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, it's more or less the same thing. We shared, just like you guys, shared a locker room with each other. The OVW locker room, there's a downstairs and an upstairs, and the women's locker room happens to be upstairs, and that's where ever since I've been there, I kind of hang in the same little bit of a corner there upstairs. So we always pass each other when we're in the locker room. More so towards the beginning when Jay Lee was still with OVW. But yeah, it's more or less the same thing. You don't want to get yourself in trouble, and you always want to try to not get yourself in trouble, but stick by each other if something is going whichever way. I mean, there's always in wrestling, the wrestling world, it seems to be that things are a little more middle schooly or high schooly than they need to be oftentimes, and people try to split people up. And same thing with guys in the locker room, like Man Beast was saying, like people will try to get at each other, and then it just causes, friction. And we do our best to not do that with each other, though every once in a while, I mean, we butt heads. Who doesn't?
We've actually
never
had one fight.
Not one?
Not one.
He's a bad liar.
Eugene has
There
made
he
the
is.
camera. This is Eugene, everyone. He's a good kid.
Somewhere.
He just wants loving. So talk about, guys, how it is for the locker room with you guys, like, just on your take of it. We talked about last week how it can be hard to be a female as a wrestler, like in the locker room, and, the drama. You guys kind of touched base on that just a little bit just now. But how's it for you guys, like in the locker room, like what you guys do before you go out to matches, everything like that, just kind of the whole shebang.
Well, of course, Randy and myself both being two of the more masculine men in the locker room, jealousy, having to deal with jealousy obviously is a big thing. But ultimately, you just stay in your lane and you continue to thrive and do what you do best, and know that you have all the talent and charisma, like Randy, to be able to carry the show on our own. And I think just knowing that at the end of the day really helps get through a performance, and knowing that you're just that much better than the rest of the people in the locker room.
I'd like to add that they do not represent the views of babes and body slams. Whatever is said here on this platform by these gentlemen is not censored nor reflects our views.
No, not at all. I mean, he started off with, trying to steal the show already. So we all know who's the diva in the house. Anyway, like I say it all the time, he's the bigger diva than me. Like I have to fix his hair, get him ready for stuff, and then I'm like throwing my stuff.
Well, and that just goes on top with what Nick was saying, knowing that we're like the most charismatic guys in the building, and that, we're kind of more than anything else, we have to have everything in line. So when the guys that are there if the guys aren't there on time, to lace up my boots or oil up my body, make sure my tights fit correctly, and Jay Lee's not there to do my hair, then I just can't go on that night and perform. And it's just, if they're not all there and all those things don't fall in place, then why am I even here? And I feel that Man Beast feels the same way.
This way, when fans are paying their hard-earned money to see Randall Floyd, they're paying for an experience. They're paying for a certain level of performance, and if you cannot execute on all of those things, then why bother? Why do it in the first place?
Exactly. Why am I even here tonight?
Floyd experience. If you can't give it to him to the fullest, then you shouldn't give it to him at all.
Exactly, and that's why we're here.
So I was telling Brittany last week that I was on a show with you guys, and you all actually tagged. And what was your all's name again? I couldn't remember.
Manhammer.
Right. That's when the hammer was.
A team's so great. We've only done it once, simply because it was just like, if you were to do that too often, the wrestling world would probably implode on itself. Truly.
Yeah, and it was a thing of circumstance. People weren't there. Things happened, and then they're like, "Well, we need you to essentially beat the heck out of these guys tonight." And Man Beats and I, no big issue, because of all the things that we just talked about in the past. So when I had my team with me, the guy to lace up my boots to make sure my tights fit correctly and oil up my skin, Man Beast was right there to get the same exact treatment. And when we went out there as Manhammer, it's something you don't want to do ever again. The guy there, he told us, we can't have you ever do this ever again. We got entirely too much heat, and what happened was that people tried to riot, and it itself was a riot. But it's just what happens in the wrestling world that Man Beast understands.
Yeah. I don't think. As a matter of fact, I think the city of Ashland has asked that we don't come back, because it might actually take the town into a frenzy. And certainly, especially with all the riots and protests going on, we're not looking to contribute.
Charge more.
I don't want to add to it. I want all the peace in the world. So it's probably something that can never happen again, unfortunately.
Peace and love for sure. So you guys were in the locker room with us when we had our little feud, Brittany and I, and she stole the championship from me. So what was your all's take on that feud?
Take on the feud?
Yeah.
The feud itself was pretty entertaining. I enjoyed it. There was multiple layers to it, and there was some sticky situations that came out of some sticky and some stinky situations where,
got dumped on Brittany and Mercy.
Brittany and poor Mercy. They were filled with stool on the top of their heads. And it's just very unfortunate when things like that happen, because guys like Man Beast and myself, like, we have to deal with that, and we have to smell all of that inside the arena. And I believe that I was on after the fact when all this smell happened, and we had to get a whole crew out there and delay the show about an hour to get this cleaned up before I would even think about stepping foot outside into that ring. So it just really, it was entertaining, to say the least.
It was.
I think it was extremely entertaining. Of course, I am not any stranger to having foul smelling substances being poured on my wife and then coming to the just a few years ago, I believe a gallon of yellow mustard on top of you, and our place smelled like a hot dog for the better part of a few months.
Apparently it's a thing for myself to be a victim of dumping something or another on top of my head. That is not the first time. He's correct. A few years ago, I had about a gallon of mustard dumped over my head.
You don't realize, well, you were telling me that the vinegar and mustard, it stinks.
It doesn't leave.
Yeah, and it gets into the mucous membrane in your eyes, and
it doesn't feel good.
It hurts.
And I wasn't allowed to shower immediately after.
We had to take pictures because it was a huge.
They took pictures.
Yeah, she got hot at me for that. I was like, we gotta wait. We gotta get the pictures.
They wanted to interview me. They wanted to do all of this stuff. Me covered in mustard. So immediately
we had dark matches to film. So
I got back.
Get those done first.
And I tried to go into the shower with my towel, and I was stopped by production.
Nope,
and blocked out of the bathroom. I was not allowed to take a shower because they needed me on camera covered in mustard.
It was a big event. We didn't expect it to happen, and we needed pictures, but we got to do the dark matches first.
A few weeks later, he got revenge for me and dumped barbecue on said person that had dumped mustard on myself. Paradise. That individual immediately went backstage and made it to the bathroom.
He ran to the shower before they could stop him. Should have just jumped in there.
Unfair treatment.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think there was Thanksgiving when I was still with Dave Lowe, and we had like a brawl of all the girls, and I remember Jessie Bell dumped mashed potatoes all over me, and they did the same thing. I had it in my hair, down my shirt, in my gear. It was a mess.
Well, the scary part with that, I believe at some point you all grabbed Dave Lowe and threw him through a table, but I was scared because as the food and substances started collecting underneath your feet, I could tell that you all were starting to flip around, and I was like, oh my God, I really was scared someone was going to get hurt. Luckily, it was only Dave Lowe, fortunately.
Well,
the only one that we all want to see get hurt, but
exactly. So, I mean, maybe they wouldn't have been too mad about it, but I stomped off because he said something really mean to me. So I got to leave.
Dave Lowe? Never.
Never. I know, right? So he said something really inappropriate and mean. So I stomped off. But yeah, I was slipping and sliding everywhere. It was a nightmare. I was so terrified that somebody was going to get hurt. But hey, it was pretty fun. So getting stuff dumped on you. But yeah.
I wasn't allowed to take a shower after you dumped poop on me. So.
Sorry. Well, you know what? You stepped in and tried to help Mercy, and you get what you get,
Lay down the tarp, I always say.
Yeah, you reap what you sow. So, I mean, we hashed it out, though. I grew up,
we're here.
And we're here. We're good.
I forgive you.
I forgive you for stealing my championship.
Winnie.
And now you both have a show. You should call it Victims of Dumpings.
She didn't dump anything on me, though.
You dumped something on me.
True, I did.
You both are victim of dumpers, right?
I guess, whatever.
I don't know.
So tell me how you guys kind of got into wrestling and stuff like that. We talked a little bit about that last week, and, you know, a little bit about like how we started, where we started and stuff like that. So how did you guys get into it?
I got into wrestling answering an ad online in San Diego, California about 7 years ago to train at SoCal Pro. I just called in, asked if they had any room for me. And I just kind of showed up the next day and started training. That's really how I just got into it. A friend of mine and myself moved out to California 2013-ish. And there it was. I just kind of spent a few weeks out there not really doing anything. And I've always wanted to get into wrestling. My first plan, honestly, was to drive down south from Indiana to Louisville, Kentucky to join at OVW. And things just kind of happened. I ended up out there and started training with the guys at SoCal Pro. So the rest is,
History.
I guess, history, because here we are, still doing it, still enjoying it, and doing the best I can to have fun. So
yeah,
absolutely. I'd say for me, I always loved watching wrestling growing up. I used to be a big fan of watching the WWF and watching Saturday morning wrestling, and I was always enthralled with the big characters. For me, not to get off on a somber note, but it was around, I was about 12, 13 years old when the Attitude Era was getting hot. And I suddenly lost my dad. And at that point, though, that's what really helped really gravitate me towards wrestling. That was my release. That was my outlet. And that's what I just couldn't get enough of consuming wrestling. And I knew that after that point, that's what I wanted to eventually get into. And so I was fortunate to be here in Louisville, Kentucky, where OVW was. Funny enough, I didn't know OVW even existed for the longest time. And actually was looking into wrestling schools, and I found Al Snow had a place called Body Slammers, and I actually was going to go train with Al up there in Lima, Ohio. And then I found out later that OVW was here in Louisville. And so the rule is you had to be 18 years old. So as soon as I turned 18 and graduated high school, literally the week after I graduated high school, I started training here under Mike Mondo at the time, and eventually Rip Rogers, and probably did most of my training under Rip. But yeah, that's how I got my start, and it was incredible, especially when I came in at a time when it was developmental. And so we would train in the evenings. It was about 5 o'clock, and usually it was after the contract guys had trained all day. And so a lot of the times we'd have guest trainers from just people that would be sticking around, and they just want to hang out and work with our class too. And that was kind of crazy. So I remember the first 6 to 8 weeks we had like Lance Storm, Tommy Dreamer, the Dudley Boys, Bill DeMott, and it was just weird to get exposure and lessons from, just a random group of people who I had grown up and watched a lot of these guys. And so it was kind of a cool experience to come in on that level and get lessons. And it was overwhelming, obviously, at the time for me. But I think getting that exposure to them at such an early stage in my career was really helpful and beneficial. And it was cool to get started around that time.
Yeah, I think it'd been really cool to, come in when it was developmental and, get to see that aspect of it. Because we obviously came in after the fact. What was it, 2017 when we came in to OVW?
16 or 17.
Yeah, I think it was 17, March of 2017 that we came in, and we trained under Matt Capitelli the first round, and then of course went to Rip Rogers. But yeah, I think it would have been really cool to be able to do that. I love Danny Davis. So he was awesome. I got to, spend a lot of time under him and, and see that, and, he's awesome, and he's kept that going for so long. And then obviously Al took over. But yeah, I think it'd been really cool to start at that time. Unfortunately, I wasn't 18.
But I don't take anything away from the way you all got trained. You all still were trained the right way. And
correct. Yeah.
When you first get started, you absolutely, and it's not enough to, well, I'm going to train my own way and then figure it out later. It's like, no, you got to get started under the right people. And so you all training under Matt and then training under Rip to start in wrestling, that you all are already years ahead of people that maybe don't have as much time experience, simply because you were exposed to those lessons early in your wrestling career. And that's why, not to, act like I'm brown nosing you all, but that's why both of you are as talented as you are right now, is because you were exposed to the right way of learning things from an early age.
I agree. I loved Matt. Of course, like we talked about that last week, I'm still friends with his wife. And then Rip, man, I love him. Like, I learned so much. Like, I didn't realize how much I knew and how I knew how to wrestle until I was like, one day I had to do it on the fly, and stuff like that. And I was like, man, just like listening to Rip in my head of what to do next. And I was so grateful. And there was times in training, I was like so blown up and just so dead and just didn't think I could keep going, but he pushed us so hard. And obviously everybody knows who Rip Rogers is. He's got a foul mouth and, sometimes you're like, does he love me or hate me? But he means so well. And then, just to learn under him is amazing. So
I think at time you start to learn when Rip doesn't yell at you, that's when he doesn't care anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. When
you get yelled at him,
doesn't say anything to you, you're done. So you might as well just leave. If he doesn't even look your way or doesn't yell at you, when he yells at you, that means he loves you. And he believes in you at least.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, one of my first experiences was with Rip was me showing up to Matt's class because Rip didn't answer months and months and probably a couple years of Facebook messages to find out how I could train with OVW. I was trying to get a hold of him and he never answered. So I ended up just signing up for the beginners class, even though I'd been training for 4 or 5 years at that point, just to kind of get my foot into the door. And then the first day there, I showed up super early to make sure that I was at the right place. And the first person I saw was Rip Rogers, and I knew it was him. And I went up to him and I said, hey, Rip, how's it going? And of course, expletive here, expletive there. Who are you? What are you doing here? You'll just quit, all this fun stuff. And I said, no, I've been trying to get a hold of you for probably almost 2 years. Check your Facebook Messenger. He claims that he doesn't know how to work technology, which I don't believe for 1 second. But anyway, that very first day of being in that class, he immediately invited me to his. So I'm taking, getting to learn, kind of resetting myself, learning with Matt, and then having Rip scream and yell at me to push me because he knew my background and that I'd been amateur wrestling. I did for close to 20 years. So he knew that I was going to step in and work hard. And one of the very first times he really screamed at me was we were practicing punches, and he goes, yeah, I mean, everything looks really good for you, but your punches they're expletive rotten. So that really helps push you, and you want to work better. I remember that day I went home and I just practiced punches all that I could all day long, and for the next day to be like, hey, how are these? Do these look any better? Are there any more tips? And he said it was a night and day difference from the first day to the second. So I really enjoy that kind of pushing. And there's times where he's screaming at me and he's like, man, I can't get to you. Can you? I'm not going to let you, man. I know what you're trying to do and I really appreciate it. So I encourage all the yelling and screaming. Bring it on. I'm all for it.
I think that goes into kind of what we were talking about. Sometimes for this business, you definitely have to have a tough skin. There are situations where you shouldn't have to have a tough skin. But that's kind of what this industry is you are going to get, as a female, you're going to have harassment. It's unfortunate. It will be taken care of, but it is going to be there. You are going to get yelled at by your trainers. There are going to be the trainers that are still old school and they're going to be very derogatory towards you. A lot of that has stopped. I
would still say if you're emotionally sensitive, it's not
for you.
No, not at all. And even just being in front of a crowd, that's so nerve wracking. And you're hard on yourself for one, because you're a performer. So you want to do well. And you're in front of a crowd, that adrenaline's rushing. You want to be able to perform well for them because they come there to see you. So you're really hard on yourself, and sometimes fans, can be really, really hard on you as well. Like we said, on social media and stuff afterwards. So yeah, you really have to just be like, I'll do better, and just always work to do that.
When you're out in front of a crowd, there's no redos. And if you mess up, that crowd's going to let you know that you messed up. And it's pretty unfortunate, but there's going to be those people that are going to jump on you once you get sensitive. And again, it's not always right. It can lead to tragedies, but that's the industry. And I don't mean to dismiss it, but that's where it's at. And you can't have thin skin.
I remember the first time I had to go out and cut a promo. I was with the Bro Gods, and I think Dimes was our camera guy. It was the very first promo I did, and it was awful. I bombed it. Like it was just like my voice range and everything. That was like the first time really on the mic. But then like being in like the It Girls, like that's all I did was cut promos and, do that. And it was so much fun. And I learned to, just be myself and like into that character as Jay Lee and, like really into that story. But yeah, I bombed it and people ripped me apart for that. And you know what? I learned from it. I took their criticism and I moved on. Not that it hasn't gotten to me. I mean, I'm human. We're all human. Sometimes it does get to you, but you have to pick yourself up and keep trucking. So.
Exactly.
Would you say working with the bro gods helped make you a better talker on the microphone?
I would say so. And I would say with Dave too. Like Dave loves to talk and like, he's a great villain. I will say that about him. That was my first experience. I came in like the first night after my first, showcase match. Gilbert and I think even maybe you came up to me, like, hey, you're on TV, you're with Dave. And I was like, so I had to go out there and, have my resting, B face on and, and take and do that. And it was so scary because it was my first night. I had no clue what to expect. Like no one even knew me. Like Dave didn't even know my name. I didn't even know his. But yeah, I would say that definitely helped me a lot with that. And then just really getting into my character and knowing who I was and where I came from and like what I stood for and stuff like that. Cause I even did promos, before the It Girls, but I will say like, that's when I really came into that character and like really felt comfortable on the mic and stuff like that was when I was the It Girl leader. So
I very much agree. I think having the spotlight at that time, you really took the ball and were able to run with it and really garner a lot of heat, which only helped to elevate the baby faces you were working with. And it was really
exactly. It was a great storyline. I loved it so much. If it could have went on forever, I think we talked about this last week. Heck, I would have done it for so long. So yeah, but it was so fun.
You can find yourself.
Never say never.
Yeah, when you can find yourself where you can present yourself as more of a character and save your body from constant bumping, and you can get yourself over on a microphone. I think that's gonna save your wrestling career.
I know. At one point, I think I was so more excited to like be on the mic than to actually in a match. Like I was like, oh, can I do a promo tonight? And like, oh, you're doing a promo. I was like, heck yeah, give me that mic. So yeah, and I think it was way more fun when we were definitely more comfortable. So
exactly.
It's always great to find ways to challenge yourself, and that's kind of how I've always looked at it. Is if I'm giving a promo, give me what I need to talk about, blah, blah, blah. But I want to find a way to challenge myself. And you guys talked about what the crowd feels. For me personally, the last thing I'm caring about is what the crowd thinks of me as a person or a wrestler. I'm there to get my point across. They can like it or not. That's truly up to them. They paid their ticket or whatever to get themselves inside the building. They're more than welcome to have their own opinion. I've got a few things I can do with that opinion, but still, you want to find your way to try and, challenge yourself. So early on in my OVW career, we kept pushing towards that I was going to have this 30-man Ironman match, and I've never had this before, and it's been my first time, and I couldn't wait to get to it so I could really push myself. One, can I last 30 minutes inside of a ring? Yes. Two, and can I do this and keep the crowd engaged the entire time? And then three, you're leaving, you're kind of, I enjoy the pressure of half that show is now on my shoulders, and it's up to me to keep not only the audience with us inside the building, but the audience at home with the program. If they're turning away, then, it all rests on me. And I've always loved that challenge and that sort of obstacle, I guess, to kind of burst through. When it comes down to pressure situations, I always feel pretty comfortable. Not one time was I really nervous inside that match or this big giant cage match that we had around the same time where we're really putting it all on the line to keep this whole thing kind of not necessarily afloat, but this is at a time when OVW was not at its highest, and we were able to keep drawing in more and more people each week, and that was something I was very proud of. At that time, it was me really and one other guy that were kind of, it seemed like the show, like we were getting most views. We were bringing in these people, and it wasn't even like a heavyweight championship situation, which made me even more proud to be able to withstand that. And it didn't do it on my own either. So I'm not saying that, but you know, when it comes down to it, I mean, that's kind of what it's all about. And that's why I enjoy this. And that's why I keep doing it. I'm always looking for that next opportunity wherever it's at. It may not be here. It may be somewhere else. You just never know.
So Ted, I have to ask, where do you get your jokes?
It is a mix. I do occasionally will peruse just stupid dad jokes online, but I always think of how I can put like some kind of spin on it or make it relevant. So it depends. Sometimes I'll get it from a website. I do have joke books, but again, I really try to make a conceited effort to not just rip off the joke. I always try to put some kind of story or spin behind it. And generally, the more low hanging the fruit and the more cornier it is, the more likely I'm inclined to use it.
And if I roll my eyes, then it's a keeper.
To the show.
True. I do miss that.
And I used to love and weirdly enough, I usually find more entertainment when I give a joke and nobody laughs except for Jason Frost. And then I'm like, all right, I'm satisfied.
Hey, you got one, right? And he's kind of a big deal. He's kind of, he's kind of a big deal. Frosty is a big deal there.
We have Jason Frost on the show.
We will have Jason Frost on the show.
We will.
That was when you're out there telling jokes. That was always the time I'd ask my guy to stop lacing my boots so I could hear what was going on, so I could hear the joke and have a good time. Yeah, so it's always fun.
No, I just loved it, like an intermission, or if like something went wrong, because it does. When you're on TV, like something happens with technology, you gotta love it. So yeah, just hearing that, like to just kind of buy some time, he would come out there with his jokes, and I just remember people, saying like, "You want to hear a joke?" And they're like, "No!" Like he had so much heat.
I know.
Just for his jokes.
Before we continue, let me interrupt for 2 seconds. I do want to make sure everybody remembers that we are on Facebook Live. I do have the chat open. So if you do have a question for myself, Jay Lee, Dr. B, or Randall Floyd, you can tune in. I do have it here. That's about it. And then we can I just had to say my little side.
Well, it's funny you say that though, about how like when things go wrong or technical glitches happen, because that's how it happened. I was put on the spot by Gilbert when we were like, oh crap, backstage stuff is going on. We got to get it fixed. We got to kill time. And then Gilbert just grabbed the microphone and said, "Hey Ted, why don't you tell him a bad joke?" And I was like, what? Am I just a joke guy now? But I just rolled. And then literally every week since that time, I was like, well, I'm going to try to get him. And you're right. After a few weeks, I think half the crowd was excited for it. And then the other half, they clearly did not want anything to do with it. But that made me that much more inclined to want to try to get at him. And that's when I started really going after the really bad, like not good jokes, because I knew it would get under their skin that much more.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's the best. But I just remember hearing, and like the crowd, or like, no, boo, or like just, yeah, you suck, any of the from that. And that was the best behind those walls. So what do you guys do to like prepare, like before you go out, to the ring and stuff like that? I normally just do some funny little, dances. I'm really a big nerd. I'm very weird. If I don't, like I said, I think I said this last week, if I don't do weird and say weird things, then I probably will just die. But I just always dance before I go out and, and do that. So what is your all's little tics and stuff before you hit that curtain?
I always like to, of course, get nice and warmed up, limber up, stretch out there mentally, physically. And then I usually have my own personal masseuse come in and kind of rub me down and make sure that I feel okay.
He does not.
Before I go out there. So I'm not risking, getting injured or getting any sort of injury that might happen because my muscles aren't ready. Then I like to sit into the
masseuse cost to have backstage, because I never saw
exactly. Like, come on.
Because you got to take the extra care to make sure the other people in the locker room don't see it. Because we talked about earlier, you don't want to create a jealous situation. So he had to keep it under wraps.
You're the personal.
Yeah. I kept under wraps with, I'd hide myself with my own personal sauna that I had in there as well to make sure that I'm nice and ready and warmed up and ready to get out there and beat the crap out of somebody. I don't even
know who this guy is right now.
Hi, I'm Randall Floyd. Is this my camera? Where's my camera? This is my camera. Hi, I'm Randall Floyd. That's Jay Lee. Now you know who I am. If
you're just tuning in, this is what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody in the entertainment industry or wrestling industry.
It's awesome.
There's never a dull moment with us. Like, I don't think we're ever really serious. Like, sometimes I want to strangle him for it. Like, I just want you to be serious for like 2 seconds, But
then she tries to get her hands around my super thick neck and she ends up wearing herself out.
See?
And she ends up falling asleep or something. and she can't be done.
I could beat him up. I've body slammed him.
My
To
hands
ask him who has beat him up more in training than anyone. Who is that? Me. You're the only one I've ever. Why are you like just sitting there saying nothing? You know, like how many times in training where it's just been you and I that I've like beat you up.
Yeah, I'm missing some teeth up front here. This one she knocked out. This one she punched out not too long ago.
Now you're just fibbing. You're a fibber.
Oh, well.
What happens when you're live, folks? That's fine. Real life.
Real life craziness.
Anyway, I got to go get some dental work because she punched it out one of my teeth out last week.
That was the dog.
So
that was Walter, not me. Walter did that because he headbutts. Walter's terrified of the vacuum. And if I clean, so he will literally like
he just start wham, and put me right in the mouth.
Yeah, he's just like a little Bronco going wild. So he doesn't like you, do you? He's sitting there staring at me. He won't let us pick him up so you can see him.
And he keeps biting my finger.
Sadly, I think dogs do cause injury. When we first got Skeeter, he got away from me. I took off running after him. I tried to catch him. I thought I was ducking a tree branch. I didn't duck the tree branch. I headbutted the tree branch. Ended up with a black eye. I was scarred and everything. Well, not scarred, obviously, but bleeding, all that great stuff. Yeah. The best part is that the very next day, Dr. B had already had roses for delivery towards me to surprise me for no reason, just a hey, surprise. But when I opened the door and there was a man standing there with a dozen roses, I opened the door with a black eye.
Oh.
Yeah, you could understand the face of...
Who was he?
Yeah, the delivery man.
Oh, you had a black eye.
A black eye, not a black and he the face of the delivery man was priceless, and I wish I had my camera in my hand. Had I known that I was opening the door to roses, I probably would have, because then it was just kind of like, hey, thanks, I don't really know how to explain this, so I'm just gonna take the roses and shut the door, bye.
My dog gave me a black eye, period.
Oh no, I walked into a tree.
Right. Like, that's a problem. People just best excuses. I had one in a tree. Georgia
just said it was wrestling though too. You know, like we've had injuries. Like he's had a black eye before, and people stare at us. Even like the way we look. Like his hair's crazy right now. Like I have bright red hair, and like we always
crazy. Whoa. My hair's
anyway. So people stare at us all the time. What about you guys? Do you all get like that? I mean,
we're. I think.
I mean, people admire us obviously all the time when we're out and about.
Right. Just like, oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. Look at those beautiful people.
I think a lot of times our looks are that we're the loud ones. So he especially doesn't mind getting attention. So if we're not getting attention because of the looks or something that he's wearing, then
that ham.
Then he's making his presence known at some point, and then I kind of get pulled along for the ride, and then it's there, and it's great. It's fine. We've had some fun experiences over it. So
yeah, we get
little game shows and things of that nature. We get the hey, you're those people.
Oh yeah. We went to a circus once and got hey, Randall Floyd.
Yeah, we're kind of in public. I mean, I'm more quiet than I am here because I don't want to draw any more attention to me. But yeah, we were somewhere and I'm like, oh my God, it's Randall Floyd. I'm like, please, no autographs, please. And they just see this big, giant swarm of people, start coming around me. I'm like, Jamie, hang on, I got to take care of this. And I'm trying to sign autographs. And then that was the first time I hurt my wrist signing too many autographs. And then.
Anyway, I'm more famous than you are. So let's just make that perfectly clear for the audience right now. And I get asked more for autographs and stuff than you.
How many autographs, son?
A lot. So I'm just going to make this perfectly clear. And who's the TV star now?
What is this? BarnBurner TV. We finally got the two babes here. And then Body Slam.
TV. Yeah, body slam. I'm going to body slam him as soon as we get off.
BarnBurner Network.
BarnBurner.
BarnBurner. We got about 13 minutes, guys, so we're still hanging out here on Facebook Live and all that great stuff. So it is.
Oh, we got any questions?
Not yet.
No.
Good.
We do have Charles the Hammer Evans watching though. I mean, this might be a good opportunity to lay down the proverbial gauntlet. I've always wanted to see the Battle of the Hammers personally.
Battle of the Hammer. I missed.
Battle of the Hammers.
That was bad. That was bad of me. So we talked about attention. So how do you guys like to deal with that? So you guys, of course, like to be in the center of attention, but like being in a relationship and getting attention and stuff can be somewhat difficult. You know,
how do you deal with those ladies?
Yeah. How do you deal with those ladies?
Well, just like we were saying, I'm trying to brush all these women off of me all the time. In the past, I've carried a nice shield on my arm that I just kind of bowl through them, and I've got Jamie kind of dragging her along to get through these giant, large crowds, these Coliseum full of women that are always trying to get my attention. But Jay Lee seems to always keep my attention, so that's just kind of the way it is.
If you see us on the news later, you know why. Just saying.
Behind every great wrestler is a female rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell that to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Go tell Hulk Hogan right now.
Yeah,
Where's he
Call
at?
him right now. Why don't you call him?
Yeah, I'm sure I've got his number somewhere.
Get him. Let's go. Get him on speaker. I got it. I'll tell him.
Yeah.
All right.
He'll probably freaking have some just fake person pretend to be Hulk Hogan. He'd probably just like walk it away and just, you know, pretend to be him or something. Just knowing him. He always, are you staring at me like that? I hate it.
Just call me a liar.
I didn't call you a liar. I just said you pretend to be someone you're not.
A liar?
I mean, the shoe fits.
How do you handle attention?
Yeah, with the desk chair.
I mean, I mean, it's obvious that people are going to give me all kinds of positive attention, and of course, my eyes only lust for one, and that's you as my empress. And so, of course, when people reach out to me, I won't even give them a day if they try to come at me in some sort of provocative and adulterous manner. I just don't play around with that, and I say bye, Felicia, to them.
Yeah.
Talk to the hand.
Yeah, Brittany. So how do you deal with that? Because of course, I feel like sometimes being a woman in the industry, we might get it a lot more. Especially, I mean, look at this, look at that. So how do you deal with that?
I'm a pretty snarky female. When I first got started, I was pretty quiet. I think more people took advantage of it at that point.
Who?
That's going to be names that I'm going to leave to. We're going to be discretion. Yeah,
all right.
We're not going to name names in
the
conversation.
We'll talk about that in the after show.
Yeah, the after show. After the camera's off. But anyways, I am a pretty snarky person. So when I came back, they got the real Brittany. I'm still very respectful. I believe that there is a fine line between being a pushover and being the B word. I try to walk that line, but if I cross over, it's more towards the B word. I have threatened a few people if they touch me again that I will break their hand, and then I can explain to them, or they can explain to them, to their wife, why their hand is broken. That line.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There is a lot of that. Like, I have so many people in my DMs that are married or in relationships. It's disgusting, to be honest. And I'm like, I know a lot of them, and it's just.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, when you're in wrestling, you're obviously going to be put in holds. You're going to be, if you're training, you're going to be with these guys. But you can, as a female, you can tell the difference. And when the line is crossed, the line is firmly drawn. And if you cross it, then I'm not politically correct anymore.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I'm a little snarky. If I feel you're across the line, I'm going to say it. I actually, since you talked about breaking hands, I actually broke my hand punching someone in the face not too long ago. It wasn't wrestling related at all. I was working at a bar here in Louisville downtown, and someone that worked with me kept messing with me. Some guy, I told him if he kept doing it, then I would do something about it. He did. I turned around and literally broke my hand from punching him in the face. So that was real fun about wrestling with that. But hey, I will. I'm a little girl. My dad always taught me to protect myself and how to fight. So I'll do so if need be.
I will go down swinging. And if you knock me out, then you best hope that you're gone before I get back up.
Yeah, I'll pick something up. I'm not afraid to do that.
Right.
I will pick up a chair, steel chair to the back, to the gut, something. I will do it.
If I had,
So,
yeah, if I had to pick up the rolling chair from the commentary table,
who
something.
cares? I'll pick up the little thing that you have to do. What do you ring the bell with? What's it called?
It's a hammer.
Okay, the hammer. I'll do that. So we only got about 5 minutes left, guys. Just wanted to see, like, what is your all's goals, you know, with wrestling from here for forever or whatever.
Huh?
Just say it. I couldn't get my words. Words are hard sometimes, guys.
You know, my overall goal is to use what I've learned in wrestling to no longer be a wrestler and continue and pursue my career as a male model that I've been working so hard to achieve.
Finally, it's about time.
Yeah. I feel there's like more time than ever that I'm probably going to have to announce a retirement sometime soon, because, you know, the modeling industry, it's so tough, and there's so many people that are reaching out to me constantly. So I don't know, I'm gonna go model off some socks or some underwear. Calvin Klein's been getting a hold of me a lot, so usually that's
Brittany, you know
what I have
that
to
this
deal
isn't
with.
true. It's okay though.
I'll pop my shirt off right now.
Don't pop your shirt off. I'll get something if you
Hmm?
do. That's another time.
I'd say for me, I'm at a place I still love to wrestle, and I'm still up for wrestling. That's incredible. What
It's a milk jug with water in it.
tell you. If I had a rocket right now, I would strap it to Randy and send him right to the moon. He's ready for it.
Down the milk a day, I always say.
For me, I'm still down to wrestle. I still enjoy it. I realize I'm getting to an age where perhaps my better days may be behind me, but I still love it. I still love creative writing. I've been doing a lot of work. I started my own media brand called Pro Style Media, and I'm hoping to work with other talents to put out their work, whether they be creators or wrestlers or managers or commentators. Working with the Humming Media Group, doing some stuff with them. We do a show called the Monday Locker Room, where basically we literally talk about everything that's going down in wrestling and the news behind it. And I'll actually be doing an NXT review show coming up on that network with Mike Mondo starting this week, where we're going to approach the review from a different standpoint. Instead of just straight reviewing like we're wrestling reviewers, we're going to look at it like we're coaches and walk through the show and look at opportunities where maybe things could have been improved upon, things they did good. And so I'm looking at more coming into it and helping people grow brands as wrestlers and helping their young wrestlers to become better. And I'm excited for kind of this next phase, and whether it's working in media, commentary, creative writing, or brand building. And that's what I'm looking at for this phase of my career, and I'm excited for it.
That's amazing.
It
So,
is.
yeah, we got to wrap this up.
What?
Yes.
5 more minutes.
You guys were
Stole the show and
awesome
talked
guys. Most of the time, that's okay.
Oh, man.
Next Sunday at 4 p.m. right here on the BarnBurner Network, we are going to have Sarah the Rebel and Vegas. She will be live with us right here on Babes and Body Slam. Don't forget to download the app. Don't forget that BarnBurner Radio Network is on 122 platforms. You can check us out. Download Zingo TV, download BarnBurner Network. Check us out on Facebook Live. Be here in the chat. Guys, have anything to send us off, Jay Lee?
She said, Jay Lee, I just want to thank you guys for coming on the show. It was a pleasure for Ted, not so much for Randall Floyd to be on the show, but thank you so much. I had a great time. And
Now it's your turn.
Well, of course, ladies, I'm still seeing you, Brittany. Your pleasure is always guaranteed when I'm around. And so, I just want to say that. And also, if you want to be sure to catch me, as I said, you can catch us I'll be on tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., twitch.tv/Conspiracy Horseman. You can also catch me on my social media channels at Ted the Man Beast. Follow me at Instagram and Twitter, or just Ted McNailer on Facebook. And we'd love to hear from, of course, I'm sure the millions and millions of fans out there that want to try to get a hold of me.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @RandallFloyd_. Thank you guys very much for having us on the show. We were so happy to be the babes in the Babes and Body Slam. If you guys ever need some more babes on the show, just please feel free to give us a call.
Again.
And we'll,
it's ladies from here on out. Ow.
Whoa!
On that note, guys, we'll see you next